We have the possibility of a few questions. If you have questions to the speakers. Otherwise, I have a little question myself, and I think what we heard here is very democratic in the way that it's cold climates, it's warm climates, it's moderate climates, and maybe it's even more these climates which have a hot summer and a cold winter, and there's a lot of smartness in overcoming that. Where do you see the best potentials, or where do you think it's most easy to start? Is that hot, cold, or mixed climates? Ask Vladimir or Stefan if you would. You both work European-wide or broad in Europe.
Well, my affiliation is residential heating, so I'm giving the heating perspective. And I would say, what I mentioned with these basic functionalities that we see that are lacking. So for me, I would say the biggest short-term, improvement potential is to get these very fundamental issues right, which are related to these two functionalities: room temperature control, and where you have bigger buildings, balancing of the distribution of energy flows across the building, because this is so, I would say, no regret, common sense, easy to do in principle, non-intrusive. You take all the list of the energy union and the objectives of policy making. That this would be, I would say, a short-term fundament then on the road towards all the, I would say, more, advanced systems and demand response, coupling buildings into the grid and so on, which then would build on that.
And if you talk about 2 years payback times, it's strange that people don't do it. That's the economy again.
So what I would like to see really in the future is using the potential renewable resources we have in Europe from the countries which are maybe a bit south in the countries which are maybe a bit north. To do that, we really need European demand response markets. We need to integrate, we need to think not really about what is good for our country, what is good for Europe. We need to think a bit more globally and work towards a European demand response markets. And in that way, we can really make the most out of renewable energies.
Any questions? We can still have a question down there.
Thank you. Sorry, Sophie. I have one question to Mr. Kolb. We learned over the last period of years, the more complex the system you install on the market, the more the risk is that the performance is not doing well. So do you have some kind of program in mind to educate the planners, installers, users to guarantee the performance of the systems, or what is your strategy?
I would say we have within this UBEC association, we have this certification scheme. There, if you go to the website, you can find certified people throughout the value chain that is basically meant to have a rather easy checklist-based system that you should follow to commission your systems well, to avoid, I would say, basic mistakes. Heating works against cooling, and elements that maintain then, after you have commissioned the building, the performance over time. So that is something. But also, I mean, if I would not claim that this is, the golden bullet. I think what we have is we have 500,000 square meters which were certified under this scheme. 200 building sites. And then you would have this, basically these functionalities that are recognized in legislation, which are those functionalities which would help you basically to carry out the inspections, that once you have basically fulfilled your requirements that you have somehow linked to the energy performance optimization that you have in legislation, and then a second element that you have the functionalities that help you, support you to maintain the performance over time. And these are the functionalities that are now more or less, I would say, we agree to a large extent to those functionalities that you have in these inspection articles within the Buildings Directive. So I would say a combination of certification and I would say support, legislative support probably is needed in order to basically close the gap between actual performance and I would say calculated performance that you have in standards, for example.
Okay. A short question down there. Bruce, Sophie, do we have a microphone? Ah, you have it.
This is a question. This is Bruce Young from the UK. It's a question to do with demand response, as described to us by Vladimir. It was, I think, one could see the technical logic of doing demand response, and some of the things he told us all seemed very reasonable and logical. What's not quite so clear is the financial logic of it. And there were a number of questions earlier about people not wanting to advance into smart buildings because they couldn't make a cost-benefit case for it. We got a sort of glimpse of the answer here, that you might be paying for it through reduced electricity prices and so forth. But I mean, how that would work and how you value the benefit to the public electricity supply system, all that seems to be an area which at the moment is very unclear. Is there any equivalent project planned for looking at how all this would work in the future once you've got the technical capability?
Yes, actually it already works. In the UK in particular, as I mentioned, we have a number of functioning demand response markets. You can expect, if you participate as a business in these markets, to get an income somewhere between 20 to 100,000 pounds, if you want, a year. The way to participate at the moment, probably the easiest way, is to get in touch with some of the aggregators. We know of several aggregators which are active in the demand response markets in the UK. In the future, where I see these markets going more are to the residential sector. So not so many possibilities to participate as a residential energy user are there at the moment. But obviously, there is nothing preventing aggregation of a large number of small residential customers so that they can as well aggregated participate in the demand response markets and get the benefits. Obviously, the benefits will not be as substantial as for the large energy users, but still, some of our analysis indicate somewhere in the round of between 10 to 100 euros or pounds, if you wish, a year. And then the way that we envision that the individual customers can use these benefits is really, again, by aggregation. So aggregated users on the local level can contribute the benefits from these programs into the local municipal improvements, for example, in their own local communities. And there have been a couple of ideas that we are trying to put into practice along these lines. And there is actually, at the moment, a successful trial with about 2,000 residential energy users in the northeast of England, which is done by a company with whom we collaborate. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I think I would stop this Q&A session here, because we would come back later and there would be more discussion and more possibilities to ask questions. And we would start the next session in half an hour, so that would be at 4:30 sharp. And before I leave, I'm happy to hear that Philippe and Amandine, they mentioned the build-up platform, which we are working with here. And what we are trying is to make these presentations available within a week or something like that, so that they can be downloaded and seen through the build-up website, where you're probably more familiar to go, or through the CA EPBD own website. So I hope to see you back at 4:30 for more discussion and more learning in this field, both on the web and here in the room. Thank you.